After I left my job as a trader, I started a career in acting. And there were times when I didn't know when the next check will be coming. I understand how it is to be in a difficult financial situation and how this makes you vulnerable. Imagine when the entire economy of a state is placed on the betting table. This can put them in a vulnerable position, unable to negotiate anything but their survival. I know some questions are painful to ask, but I still will ask them.
Money was being diverted from health care, education, to pay off the loans.
There were a lot of people that did benefit from these crises.
Everything has been done to keep this game going.
Are there economic hitmen from powerful organizations that get poor countries to sign up for infrastructures that they don't necessarily need and take up loans that they essentially cannot repay in order to make profit?
After I studied economics, I worked as a stock trader. I traded stocks and bonds for a few years. I would read company research and study the price movement in the market. It sounds boring, but I loved it. I actually still do. In my family, everyone is good with numbers, but I left the trading floor to become an actor. And because of my previous job in the market, I came across a book titled Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, and I was shocked. These people were not discussing buying and selling stocks or companies. It is actually about buying and selling entire economies. The writer talked about economic hitmen who coordinate with bigger nations to exploit and devour poorer countries. Professional people whose job is to deceive countries and extort them with trillions of dollars. Is this a colonial tactic? To strip countries of their resources and political will? A country that needs to build or renew its infrastructure will need capital. It also needs the expertise, technology, equipment, and all of that. Developing countries likely will import some or all of this from another country. In order to pay for the imports, they will take a loan. It seems simple and straightforward, right? Fortunately, I can talk to someone who did this job. His name is John Perkins. I want to ask him about his previous job.
I was recruited by a big international consulting firm called Charles T. Main, which has since been bought, so the name no longer is out there. My title was chief economist. And I had as many as 50 people working for me. My job really was to identify countries that had resources our corporations wanted, like oil, like in the Middle East, oil, and then to arrange for a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or the IMF or one of the sister organizations.
I think that documentary is the same story like Ole explained and Alex explained, right? And Alex, yesterday you talked about the IMF and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Who is controlling the world then? Is really they're helping, or the documentary was right that actually they control countries? Corruption.
Oh, absolutely. The one thing I wanted to say, it's very good film and very correct. Now, I was involved in finance for many years when I sold my film company, and I became friends with some very powerful people on Wall Street and other places. And what do I see the day before yesterday on CNN, which I never watch? I see the most powerful man in the US what's his name? Dimon, the chairman, Jamie Dimon. You all know who Jamie Dimon, he is the chairman and he runs JP Morgan. And in his speech, which is to reassure the American public that we are not going to another 2008 crisis, even though there are 3 banks in the US that have gone belly up to today, Mr. Jamie Dimon says that wherever they open new offices, there is always a person hired who's a member of JP Morgan who goes and talks to the poor people. And I just couldn't believe it, because I know that world, and you can call JP Morgan. First of all, nobody will answer except a telephone answering machine. But to say that in the poor cities in the US, that JP Morgan are opening offices and sending out employees to go and reassure and help the poor, when every American city has tens or hundreds of thousands sleeping in the streets, I thought the hypocrisy was pushed to the maximum. I was really shocked how far Mr. Dimon went, when we all know that if you work for JP Morgan, you make commissions on deals, and you're not going around trying to help and feed people who are in dire straits or poverty. That's a bit what I've had to say. Now, that's what I have to say.
Yes,
can I ask some question? Alex, some follow-up questions. But before that, a very warm welcome to Victoria de Lesseps, which I believe has just entered our Zoom room. And Victoria is in New York. I think, welcome, Victoria. And yes, so follow-up question, Alex, on Jamie Dimon's remark. But also, perhaps on the opposite side, you may also like to consider to speak more about the role of George Soros, in the contrary of the work of microfinance. Perhaps if you would be so kind to enlighten us in that direction.
I was with George Soros in New York, and George took me around to meet everybody. Wasserstein Parella, you name any Jamie, whatever big bank, investment bank. Soros took me around and said, nobody is investing where Alex is investing. And I was investing in what was called the tiger markets, which was basically the stock market of Thailand, which went up 100% every year for a couple of years. And all these Southeast Asian markets called the tiger market. And George and I became friends because he tried to hire me. And I said, George, I don't work. I'm not going to work for anybody else, but I'll gladly share. I must say to George, he did come to Myanmar to make a deal, and I warned our group. I said, George will come, he will make the deal. The minute he makes money, he's out the door, which is typical of a good professional trader. So I know the whole world hates Mr. Soros. I don't. I found him very frank and doesn't bullshit like Jamie Dimon is doing to try and calm down people.